This is the new Volvo EX30, and it is exactly the sort of car we've been aching to see more of from the legacy car brands. Namely, a small, practical, sensible, affordable family EV. And it's really good looking, and it's really fast. In fact, the biggest issue is Robert and I are going to need something else to whinge about now.
The Fully Charged Show is generating positive energy with its live events all around the world. Next up, it's Fully Charged Live Canada. Click the top right of the screen to get your tickets today.
Now then, people, this is really quite exciting. I knew I liked the look of this thing from the pictures and from what I'd read about it, but having had a proper nosy around it and really understanding the numbers, this is quite a big deal for Volvo. We have seen so many of the legacy car brands hiding behind big, expensive, high-end EVs. They build a few of them, it looks like they're trying. They're not really trying. This represents Volvo really getting stuck in with electric cars. It's the cheapest Volvo that you can buy, electric or otherwise. It's the smallest Volvo that you can buy, electric or otherwise. And as far as the amount of CO2 involved in building it, the greenest Volvo you can buy. So it's all looking quite good. To begin with, let's have a little nosy round, shall we? What do we think of this face then? I, for one, think it's a very lovely face. We've seen this design language first appear on the big EX90. Absolutely no semblance of a grille or a faux grille whatsoever. They've done away with it for their electric cars. I personally really like that. Why pretend? Really like these slightly pixelated headlights as well, a little bit reminiscent of Ioniq 5 potentially. I mean that in the best way possible. I think generally, design language-wise, the thing it most reminds me of is a little bit Polestar 2, which is sort of like saying it looks like a Volvo because the Polestar 2 was based on a Volvo concept. Again, I mean it in a good way, but that squared off rear haunch gives me a little bit of Polestar 2 jacked up. Not a bad thing to resemble. And incidentally, if you're wondering if there's going to be some incoming smaller, cheaper Polestar model, which this is going to be directly in competition with, fear not. Polestar are only going upwards with their price points. They're going to be building bigger and more expensive cars, not smaller and cheaper ones. So this space is all Volvo's to inhabit and make its own. As we work our way around the sides, looks bigger than it is. This car is about 4.2 meters long. It's actually a tiny bit shorter in length than an MG4, but because it's square and boxy and high riding, it really doesn't look that way. We've got bespoke EV architecture under here. This is the SEA platform from Geely. Super versatile EV platform. It actually comes in 5 different sizes and it can accommodate everything from small compact crossovers like this and the smart #1, all the way up to Lotus Electras, which sit on the kind of bigger, longer version of that same platform. And thanks to that EV platform, they've been able to push the wheels right out to the extremities. You can see quite a long wheelbase for a fairly short car. I will say they've given it quite a lot more bonnets than you would maybe expect a bespoke EV to have. Interesting. I'm sure there are packaging reasons for that, but is it going to impact negatively on cabin space? We shall see. And let me just rattle through some really important numbers for you very quickly. I'm going to cheat for this part, if you don't mind. 2 battery sizes, 49 kilowatt hour usable or 64 kilowatt hour usable. The smaller battery you can only have as single motor rear drive. The bigger battery you can have as that or dual motor performance. More on that in a second. Ranges are only predicted at the moment, but they reckon that the entry level car is going to have about 214 miles all the way up to 298 for the longest range one, which will be the big battery single motor. And I really like the fact that they've used 2 different battery chemistries for the 2 different batteries. I know this is a bit geeky, but it is important. The smaller battery is lithium iron phosphate. It's a little bit less energy dense, but it is more affordable, enabling the car to be more affordable. The bigger battery is lithium nickel manganese cobalt, which is the good stuff, much more energy dense, more efficient. So the battery isn't just bigger, it's cleverer, meaning you get additional range. That's nice. And finally, a couple of really mad numbers for you. 428 brake horsepower, 3.4 second 0 to 60 time. That's the dual motor performance version of this car. It's supercar quick. The world's gone mad. It's the cheapest, smallest Volvo. Some fairly staggering numbers, I'm sure you'll agree. And can I just quickly share a thought with you? Does it strike anyone else that every single small, affordable electric car that's come out over the last year has one thing in common? Namely that they are either from Chinese brands or from brands with Chinese parent companies. This is the situation that we now face. China have such monopoly of battery manufacturing. More than that, they have monopoly over the supply chains of the raw materials. They have monopoly over the refinement process, where you turn those raw materials into the magic goo, technical term, that goes into those batteries. And the upshot of that is, if you are not a Chinese brand or working with a Chinese brand, you are simply not going to be able to compete on price. You are simply not going to be able to get enough batteries quickly enough. This car, can we just remind ourselves, its closest rivals from Mercedes and BMW, they cost some £15,000 more. So when you say things like, oh, I would never buy from a Chinese company or a brand that's in bed with a Chinese company, please just be clear on the reality of the situation in the industry right now. This is the result of our European and American government's lack of foresight as far as the upcoming green revolution, and 10 years of foot dragging from our Western legacy car brands, all while China was busy throwing their hat over all the supply chains. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Let's go have a look at the boot. Round the back, I tell you what, this is a lovely looking car. I love the design of this thing. I like this slightly swoopy roofline, just to make it a little bit more sporty looking from side on and a little bit more efficient as well, which means a bit more rangy. It's not the full-blown SUV coupe, thank goodness. Don't like those, don't understand them. I also like these trademark tall Volvo brake lights, but with the new stripy motif, the two black lines across the back, and this is good, look, boot button. Why would you want to go under there and get your fingers all grubby to open a boot? It's just a button. It's just a button. That is a 308 litre boot. It's not enormous, but it's a nice boxy opening. There's no lip, so it's quite usable. Underneath the false floor, there's a bit of extra space. And then if you drop the back seats, which go completely flat, because of the high boxy shape, you then end up with 904 litres of space. I've just spotted this. This graphic is absolutely fantastic. So sensible, so Swedish. This is a list of things you could fit in the boot. Your plants, your golf clubs, your gas canister, even a baby. Practical. Right, interior of the EX30. There wasn't really any detail or much detail about this interior in the press material, so I'm sort of just taking it all in for the first time, and there is a lot to talk about in here. Let's just kind of work our way around. We'll start with the doors. We've got these lovely, beautiful door handles. Nothing about those suggests that this is an entry-level, affordable car. But then you notice there's not really anything in the door. There's a huge storage bin, there's a little armrest, but there's no speakers, there's no window switches, and that's because the speaker is one long sound bar across the dash, and the window switches are here. And what that means, having no tech in the door, is it just becomes much, much simpler and more affordable to manufacture, which again is helping them get down to that low price point. Really cool. Looking in front of me, there is no gauge cluster. They've followed in the Tesla Model 3 mold here, and they've put everything into this central portrait screen. And actually only this little thin section across the top is dedicated to providing you with the information that was previously housed in a gauge cluster, because really how much info do you need now that we're all electric? What gear you're in, forwards or backwards, and your range. That's basically it, isn't it? What should we do next? Lovely square steering wheel, nice big clicky buttons on there. We've got a fairly kind of old school American style gear shifter. I quite like that. Love the materials in here. What they've done is gone super, super sustainable. Lots of recycled stuff, but really not trying to hide the fact that they are recycled materials. So this they call pixel knit. This is 100% recycled polyester. This is a partially recycled material. Look at this. I like this a whole lot. And this, by the way, this is recycled plastic window frames and roller blinds. Yeah, these are 100% recycled PET plastic bottles. And this is one of 4 rooms, they call them. Different kind of aesthetics that you can have for the interior. I think it's fantastic. We saw a little bit of this with the Polestar Precept concept, this idea of using recycled materials, but then making them beautiful, not trying to dress them up as dead animals, just letting them be what they are. Bespoke EV architecture means flat floor, and there's a kind of decision process with what you do with this middle space. Either you leave it empty and you have the whole open plan thing, or you put storage in there, but then it doesn't feel as roomy. This is kind of both. It's a low-level storage compartment, so you've still got that airy cabin, but there is a practical storage tray down there with a couple of USB-C chargers. There's a wireless phone charger here, which has got a cool design. You just kind of lock it into place like that with some rubber bristles, and then your phone is charging. And incidentally, more storage. Look, under there, that's a whole massive storage bin. Under there, I don't know what for, but it's there. Best cup holder I've ever seen. You ready for this? 2 cup holders, you close it. 1 cup holder, no cup holders. And it feels good. It's robust and rugged and nicely put together, even on this pre-production car. It is a really lovely looking interior. I love the prominent use of sustainable materials. I like the minimalist vibe. Some people will take issue with the fact that everything is in the touchscreen, but having lived with this Google software for quite a while, I can tell you it works well enough that it doesn't really bug me. But can you fit a jack in the back? Right then, let's remember, pretty small car. Seat is not all the way back in my driving position, but in one that I could safely drive in if I had people sat behind me. And here we go. I'm not spoilt for legroom, but I could deal back here. Plenty of headroom. We've got that flat floor. It is quite high, so I'm conscious that my knees are quite high up, but this is really not bad for a car of this size. Could they have created a little bit more cabin space by having a little bit less bonnet, maybe? But I'd say ample for kids, ample even for teenagers and adults on short to medium distance rides. This is a roomy little cabin. I don't mind this at all. And again, it's just simple but nice back here. I do love the material choices. Again, nothing techie in the doors, just these really lovely tactile handles. Window switches are in the middle, a couple of USB-C charging ports. This is interesting. So do you remember in the front, I said I don't know why there's that really deep storage bit that you can't quite reach. Well, you can actually get all the way through. It's open on both sides, so it's more, I think, for the kids in the back. And then this drawer, you can actually pull out, pop your crayons in. It's got a moose on the side. We love a moose. You can just really get the sense that people with families and children have sat down and thought about this and ensured that it's not just nice to look at, but easy to get along with, easy to live with. Very Volvo, if you will. And let's remember, we're not talking 40,000 pounds. We're talking 31 or 32 grand for the entry-level version of this car once it subsequently arrives, making it one of the cheapest 4-seat family EVs that you can get your hands on. And just a quick word on that entry-level version of, it's got a little storage cubby down the side of the seat for when you drop stuff. That's brilliant. Sorry. Quick word on the entry-level version, the one with the small battery. You might be looking at that and thinking, hang on, that's just there to get the entry-level price down. No one's actually going to buy the one that's got a real-world range of less than 200 miles. Well, on the contrary, Volvo have done some research into their customers, and they reckon the majority of people who buy this car will be buying it as a second car. They'll have something else for longer journeys. The majority of people who buy this car will have their own driveway with charging facilities, and they're probably going to be using it for less than 31 miles per day. So actually, for a huge amount of the people that might be interested in this vehicle, that short-range entry-level version will be more than enough. And I really would love to see more brands offering a smaller battery, lower range version of their cars, because for so many people, 150, 180 miles of range, more than enough for day-to-day driving. Very impressed with this little car. Can't wait to get it out on the road, but I think this is well on its way to becoming my new pick for the best affordable electric family car. Do let us know your thoughts. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thanks for watching.